Welcome to From Scratch, the show where our guests share their journeys of success and failures. My name is Joko. I'll be your host, and today with me I have Nick. Now, if these stories are something that inspire you, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share them with somebody to inspire their day as well. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Joko.
How's your day so far?
The start of my week, I have a lot in my head I'm going on and I'm excited about, so I just usually have a rough night sleep Monday nights, but
Oh, man.
but that's okay.
Tell me a little bit, what do you do now before we go into the nitty gritty stuff, like
Sure.
in brief terms?
Well, I own a mental health practice, and we work with couples and adolescents, drug addicts, and things like that. We have 5 different locations, 2 in Plainfield, 1 in Downers Grove, 1 in Evanston, 1 in Geneva. We started the practice in earnest in 2015. I've been a mental health therapist myself since 2009. Back in college, some friends and I were talking about professions that were kind of like ministry but weren't ministry, like weren't working at a church. And someone had mentioned therapy, being a mental health therapist. And so that was the first time I had really thought about doing that. In 2007, decided to go back to school, get my master's degree, and do this. And it was meant to be like a supplemental thing. I was going to be a youth pastor full time at a church and see a few clients on the side, maybe 10 times, 10 clients a week or something like that to make extra money. But I enjoyed it so much and I got really good at it. I kind of got to a spot where I had to make a decision. I was either going to have to tell new clients no, that I can't take you because I don't have the time with the church, or I was going to have to quit the church. So I started a plan to get out of the ministry around that time. It took me a few years to officially pull the trigger on it.
Interesting.
But eventually I pulled the trigger and made the move. But so we've been doing this for about 10 years now.
This is where we are now,
This
right?
is where I am now. Now I own a business.
Now I don't sleep at all.
And I don't sleep. And running a business is completely different than being a therapist, too. So that's a whole nother game I've been learning.
Real quick, I just wanted to share with you that From Scratch is an independent podcast that is not backed by any investors. If you do enjoy these types of inspirational stories and would like to support the podcast, I will leave a donation link somewhere above or below this video where you can make your donations discreetly and safely. If, on the other hand, you have a business and would like to advertise during one of the episodes, I have 3 types of sponsorship packages that basically fit any type of budget for your business. Any financial contribution is highly appreciated, and I cannot thank you enough for your continued support. But you don't have to donate in order to support the podcast. All you have to do is just simply subscribe and share it with your community so that these meaningful stories will reach a wider audience. Thank you for listening. Now let's go back to the episode. I would like to know, of your upbringings, where you grew up, how you grew up, like from scratch, right?
Oh, yeah. So I was actually born in Texas. My mom and dad got divorced. And right after they got divorced, my mom dies in a car accident. I remember the car accident.
Oh, you remember?
Oh, yeah. I remember my mom. I mean, I remember eating guacamole with her. I remember the house we lived in, the townhome we lived in before she passed away. It was like a kind of a smaller, narrow Texas 2-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom townhome. Had a little backyard with a sprinkler system. I was out in the little patio area with my little scooter car thing that you have when you're a kid, and the sprinklers came on. I remember getting scared. I remember playing with the doorstop, and my mom saying, "No, don't do that. You're going to break it. You're going to pinch your finger," that kind of a thing. So, I remember my mom really vividly, actually. I remember the car accident. I remember some pieces and stuff about what happened after that, but I don't know in what order it went. Well, my dad actually met with the driver. I actually just learned this a couple of years ago because he just wanted to know, like, what happened. And it was probably about a year after the car accident. The guy was freaked out, thought my dad was going to kill him or something. So they met in a public place. He told him everything that happened. I was driving a little fast and trying to show off in the car. It was raining, and I lost control, and we fishtailed and all that. But I remember right to the point of the accident, I remember the fluid from the other car, the like radiator fluid splashing. Because I remember it was raining, and then all of a sudden there was like this rust-colored fluid that splashed all over the car. That was when and then I went out. I don't remember seeing my mom. That part of the brain is it's interesting how that works. You don't.
Yeah, it blocks out.
Yeah, you're supposed to block out traumatic stuff. You're not supposed to remember it. That's part of the reason I became a therapist was like, when you go through death and divorces and when someone else comes in and they're like, yeah, I'm dealing with this problem. You're like, yeah, I've dealt with that problem too.
Right.
My dad, not long after that, starts dating a woman and they get married, and I call her my mom because she really raised me. They get married. I have a brother. I have a sister. We moved back to Illinois because my dad's originally from this area.
Okay.
And Chili's, the restaurant, was started in Texas. And my dad was working there. And then they opened a location in Downers Grove. It was like one of the first locations in Illinois. It might be the first location.
Okay.
He moved the family back up here. So that's how we went back to the Chicagoland area. So we originally moved
Wow.
back to Downers Grove. And then his career path with Chili's took him to Wheaton. So we moved to West Chicago. And then eventually they got divorced. My mom started, she was dating a guy named Monty, really good guy. And we lived with him for a few years. And then they broke up and we moved over to South Elgin, which is
Oh,
like
wow.
St. Charles area. My brother once met Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys singer, because he lived in that area.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
he,
cool.
he was trick or treating in his neighborhood, and Brian Wilson, this like weird guy, opens the door, and my brother and his buddy walk in. And he's showing him all their gold records and stuff. He's a very friendly guy apparently. And then, but yeah, so I ended up graduating from high school in St. Charles. Then I went to Judson University, which is a small Christian school. I wanted to be a minister. I wanted to be a pastor. I had really gotten involved in my church my freshman year of high school because there was a really cute girl that I wanted to date. She never dated me. It never worked out.
She didn't know that you were dating, right?
Right. She didn't know that we were dating. So, but it was really cool. I went to this youth group thing, and the people there were so friendly and so nice. I was learning to play guitar, and they're like, "Why don't you join the worship band?" I'm like, "I'm really
Nice.
not that good." They're like, "That's okay." So it was just like a really cool group of people that got me kind of locked into my church, and that became more of like my friend group than even my school friends in some ways. I brought some of my school friends over to the church. Some friends I still have to this day are kind of a crossover between school and church stuff.
Okay.
So that kind of like launched me into this idea of doing something that helps people, right? At a really young age, when I was like 5, my mom asked me, she goes, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I want to be a doctor." She goes, "Well, why do you want to be a doctor?" I said, "Well, because I want to help people."
Wow.
But at 5, you don't know very much about what there
Right.
is out there that you can do. My grandfather was a doctor, so I went to that. Fast forward, and I'm 18 trying to look at what I want to do. My grandfather asked me the same question. I said, "Well, I want to help people. I was thinking about being a doctor, but it's going to take a lot of school, and I don't really like school that much."
That's what you told him?
That's what I told him. And I go, "But they make a lot of money." He goes, "Don't go into it for the money. You got to like the schooling. If you don't like the schooling, you're not going to like the profession."
Right.
So I decided to go into the ministry instead. Let's see, I started in ministry in 2002. I graduated college in 2002. I got married in 2004. My wife and I actually met through the church. She was actually
Nice.
from upstate New York, and my youth pastor was from upstate New York. He was big into doing family ministry, so he liked to not just have the youth group kids go to stuff, he wanted all the parents involved. Christmas of 97, he does this big trip with all the families to downtown Chicago. Some of the families from his old church in New York really missed him, so they flew out to join the trip.
Wow.
My wife's family was included in that. It was her mother, and her sister. Here I am on this trip with my church, and I meet this beautiful woman with the most gorgeous eyes, and I'm just like in love. But I'm
Love at
17.
first sight.
Right. I tell her this story. This is true. This is how I felt. But she lived in upstate New York, and we're 17.
Where in upstate New York?
Albany area.
Okay.
A little town called Troy. I met her, but we lived so far away, and then we just stayed in contact. She would come out to visit, and we would hang out, and there was always this sort of tension. She liked me, I liked her, but you live so far away, we can't do anything with it. After 9/11, she goes, your friends have come out to visit New York. Why don't you come out to visit New York sometime? I'm like, you know what? Flights are cheap. So it was 9/11.
Oh, well,
Yeah, I know.
True.
I'm
But
a
it was
broke
true.
college kid,
But
right?
it was true, though.
It was true.
Yeah.
So I fly out to New York, and while I'm out there, she gets a job offer in Illinois. So she's planning on moving to Illinois. So we started dating,
Interesting.
got married at 24. I'm working at a church in Hinsdale. We left that church, and we took a position as a youth minister at a church in Joliet. I got hired in August, and I got fired 2 days after Christmas. Packed up my stuff, got in the car, and I called my wife, and I said, "Hey, I got good news and bad news." She goes, "What's the bad news?" I go, "I got fired. The good news is I'll be home early."
Oh, okay, that's a short.
Yeah, it was a
employment.
very painful experience.
Well, what happened?
I don't really know. My wife was pregnant at the time too, which really sucked. And then she had a miscarriage. It was just it was the end of 2006 going into 2007, and it was a really kind of dark and difficult period. I'm a religious guy. I would say that God redeems that stuff when you go through hard times. It's not that God wants those things to happen, but God will help make good things out of those bad things. My buddy got me a job at Lowe's because I just needed a job. I just needed something. And then I did that for a few months, started school in 2007 for the master's in clinical psychology, because I was actually pursuing a master's in divinity from seminary. I was about halfway through with that. If you're going to be a pastor, you usually will get a master's in divinity. And I was about halfway through that when I got fired. Did like odd jobs here and there for a little bit, did some public speaking, did some consulting. At the end of 2007, I started working at a foster care agency that worked with foster parents and the foster kids to make sure that the foster kids didn't get removed from the home if they were having bad behavior or whatever. So we would go into the home and we would set some goals and do some like basic behavioral therapy with the parents and the kids. And that was like my first introduction into
Interesting.
psychology stuff. At the time, I was a student, but I was doing that as a job. Did not like that job at all. Just kept looking for a job. Ended up
Why?
getting agencies are very bureaucratic and redundant, and you don't really help people. So this agency in particular was a nonprofit that was founded by two mental health therapists, similar to what I am now. And those people were great. The founders were terrific people. They ended up shutting down eventually. What you'll find out in mental health care is there's like kind of three levels. Level one is like what I do now, outpatient mental health. You meet with your therapist once or twice a week. Maybe you go to some groups, and that helps you maintain mental health. If things escalate and you need a higher level of care, there's things like intensive outpatients, which are like you 3 nights a week, five hours a night. And then there's what they call partial hospitalizations, where you'll be there from like 9 to 5, 5 days a week.
Oh,
And
wow.
then the third level is residential. That's your asylums. If you think of like a mental health hospital, like the really scary places that are in the haunted houses and stuff, those don't really exist as much anymore. There's a couple of places like that where people are really severe with psychosis, schizophrenics, but the medications and treatments of people with mental health have gotten so good that even people that are that severe can actually function at a really high level if they take their medication. So
Interesting.
most residential facilities, you're only in there for maybe 60 or 90 days to make sure your medications are right, and then they release you and you kind of go to someone like me. So the place I worked at was kind of an in-between. It
Okay.
was sort of a middle step between the level 1 and level 2 care. You're not quite sending people to an intensive outpatient. That's very expensive. But what they're dealing with is so severe that you can't have them go to an outpatient facility. So we would go into the home. We would talk to this foster care kid who had been abused or neglected severely and is now with a family that's trying to like figure this out. Sometimes they were doing it as a job, and other times they did it because they actually cared. Ironically, the ones that did it as a job were the best.
Really?
Yeah, you would think that the places, the foster care homes that are taking kids in because they want the paycheck wouldn't care about the kids, but the opposite was true. They cared deeply for the kids. They were very structured. The kids had chores. It was a really regimented, disciplined environment that was very caring. And the ones where you had the parents that just wanted to do it because they liked kids, those were the ones that struggled. When a child is severely abused and neglected, in early childhood, there's a disorder called reactive attachment disorder. They'll follow you into the bathroom, be banging on the door, let me in. You're like afraid you're going to leave them because you're
Okay.
just going to the bathroom. Or the other side is that they'll be really aggressive to you. They'll punch you, they'll hit you. They're very
Is it out
violent.
of love or is it out of like
It's out of
fear?
fear.
Fear?
Yeah, so it's reactive attachment disorder. So it's
Okay.
a reaction that they have to a sense of the attachment that they have with the authority figure. Those were most of the kids that we had to deal with, and it's very difficult to treat, right? Because they're like 4, 5, 6-year-olds, and you have these parents that care and love these kids, and you have to have a very disciplined approach to things that effectively takes the love out of it, right? What you would think is love out of it, and you got to make it very rewards based. And they just didn't want to do that.
They loved the kid so much, so they didn't know how to structure and how to handle.
Correct.
Okay.
They wanted the kid to act like a normal kid.
Right.
If I give a dirty look to my older daughter, that's enough for her to say, okay, I'm sorry.
Right.
A kid with reactive attachment disorder, you'd make a dirty look, they wouldn't even flinch. You threaten to take something away, they would immediately think, well, that means you must not love me, and so I'm going to go punch you and kick you and hit you.
Oh wow.
Right. But in the professional foster care homes, you start day one. Here's your sticker chart. If you do your chores, you get a sticker. If you don't do your chores, you don't get a sticker.
Okay.
So if the kid didn't get a sticker, instead of reacting and getting all over the top and hitting the foster parent, they would understand, well, I didn't earn the sticker. right? It was like a job to live there.
Right,
And
right, right.
something about that works for people a lot of times.
It gives them structure.
It gives them a lot of structure, and there's not a lot of emotion in it.
Yeah.
You know, as an observation, you would say, "Oh, this is a business to the foster parent."
Right.
In reality, it's a business that works, and those places did more to help kids.
Interesting.
Reactive attachment disorder progresses. It gets worse if it doesn't get treated. It becomes oppositional defiant disorder. That's a person who just opposes anybody in any position of authority, no matter what.
Oh, wow.
Conduct disorder is next. That's your juvenile delinquent. That's a 15-year-old stealing a car. After that, when they turn 18, if they're still doing criminal behavior, it's usually what we call antisocial personality disorder. Most people in prison, let's say it's like a serious crime where you did something to somebody, that's antisocial. That's where you get your psychopaths and sociopaths. That's where that comes from. Those are subsets of
Interesting.
antisocial. So we were working with basically
Yeah.
future criminals
Yeah.
when they were 5.
Yeah. No,
So that was a rough. I hated working there. So I got out of there as soon as I could, and I started working at a church. Finished my master's degree, but eventually I had to make a choice between mental health or ministry, and I chose mental health.
Give me a good day during your childhood.
There was a lot of good memories. We camped a lot as kids.
Glamping or like tents?
We did a little bit of both. We did some tents. We did a pop-up for a while.
Okay.
But we would go to a Yogi Bear campground. So we moved here when I was 6. Fast forward, I'm like 10. We're going to Yogi Bear campgrounds, and we would go to the one in Wisconsin Dells a lot.
Oh, okay.
So we'd go up there, and we had our pop-up, and we would sleep in our section. Mom and Dad would sleep in their section. We would be outside all night. There'd be a
Nice.
campfire. I'd be fishing. Did a lot of fishing as a kid. I loved fishing. My family in Texas was still really involved in my life. I'm very close with all of them. My biological mom's side of the family, I'm very close with them. My aunt and uncle on that side of the family have been like a second set of parents for me in a lot of ways. I would go down in the summers to Texas, and I would spend like 6 weeks. I'd spend half the summer in Texas.
What'd you do when you would be down there?
Oh, I did a lot of fishing. My grandparents lived on a big lake.
Uh-huh.
And so I would go out there, and I learned really quickly how to catch catfish.
Okay.
And if you take a little piece of bread, white bread, take the middle, and you squish it to a little tight ball, and you just put that on a hook with nothing else, just a hook, a string, and that, and you throw it out there, it's like magic. So we would catch all these catfish, and then I would clean them myself. I'm 10 years old. I would hang them on a tree, and then you'd knock them out, you'd kill them and skin them and fillet them up or whatever, and then we'd have a big fish fry.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
At that point in time, did you have your brother, sister?
Yeah.
Would
So
they come with you?
it's a half brother and half sister,
Right.
technically, right?
Right.
So yeah, we would all go down to Texas, and I would spend some time with my biological mom's side of the family and my stepmom's side of the family, because, like I said, they're family to me too.
Exactly.
And my brother and sister would spend a lot of time with them. They would spend all the time over there.
Nice.
And they would sometimes come over to my biological mom's side of the family for some stuff when they could.
Did you ever feel like you were meant for something different? Was there ever something else that if mental therapy doesn't work out, I'm just going to be this?
I've considered going back to actually go to medical school. I've considered going back into the ministry field. I don't think I'm meant to do anything other than help people, though. Some people like numbers and finance. Some people like real estate. That stuff is all very important. I just have always wanted to be in that help people field. And whatever I do, no matter what I do, whether I get paid for it or not, I will be helping people. I tell young men all the time, I'll get, adolescents that come in, and it's actually easy to make money. It's hard to find purpose.
True.
I told a young man the other day, I go, your goal is to figure out what you want to accomplish with your life, not how much money you want to make. Like when you're 90 years old and you're on your deathbed and your great grandkids are there and your grandkids and your kids, you want to be able to look back on your life and say, this is what I accomplished. What is that? Answer that question.
It goes so much deeper than just making money.
Yeah. Like if my practice went bankrupt or I sold and retired, you know what I would do the next day? I would get up and I would schedule appointments with people and I would help them with their mental health problems. I would just do it for free.
Where does this need or urge to help people come from?
Wow, that's a deep question, dude. I had a lot of people in my life that I felt did that too, and I really admired. Like my aunt and uncle are a good example. My dad. My mom is a really interesting one because it's my stepmom. Texas back in 1983 when this was going on didn't have a lot of dark-skinned Italian-looking guys like my dad. Dad's a good-looking guy, right? And he knows how to have fun.
Okay.
Meets my mom. My mom looks like, to this day, looks like a Barbie doll. If you saw her, you'd be like, holy crap, that woman's a Barbie doll. Very beautiful woman. She was a model. So my dad like instantly was like in, right? So they go on a date and it's kind of okay. He asks her out on another date. She's going to say no, but he goes, "You want to go to the circus with me and my son?" And she's
Okay.
like, "You're what? You have a son?" And she tells this story, and it's like the reason she gave him a second date was because this guy had a son. And she's like, I got to see where this goes.
Interesting.
She sort of came out of a somewhat similar background. Her mom died when she was young. Her stepmom raised her just like her own. And then, now she goes off to college and she finds herself in a similar circumstance where she gets to be the mom. She kind of chose to sacrifice a lot of her dreams. She wanted to go to
Oh, wow.
Paris, be a fashion model and a fashion designer, and she could have. She's a creative, beautiful woman who could have done that stuff. But she chose to give that up to take care of a child that wasn't her biological son. And then on top of that, she ended up getting pregnant and had her own, right? But she gave up a lot to help somebody like to help me. And give her credit for that. I mean, I owe her a lot from that perspective. So, ministry, going into church and
Mm.
all that, that was her. My dad was Catholic and he was kind of like about religion for a long time. But my mom was really devout. And so growing up, we would go to church. We go to church a lot. And then that church we went to that I started getting involved in the youth group, that was a church that we found as a family, her and my brother, sister, and I, because my parents were divorced. My dad eventually started going to church and became a Christian himself. But yeah, I mean, my mom was a driving force behind a lot of that idea of helping people. My grandfather was a doctor in Skokie forever. I mean, he retired at 75,
Wow.
and he still maintained his medical license.
Oh my
He
goodness.
maintained his medical license till he was 94. He
Wow.
died when he was 91. His
That
medical
is
license was still valid for 3 years after his death, right?
talk
So,
about
yeah, he was
dedication.
dedicated, man. That guy. My aunt and uncle. My uncle owns a dental practice, and he's got a mantra. His mantra is "Do the right thing." My uncle, and just he's the epitome of that. Just Mister Do the Right Thing, and very disciplined, dedicated husband and father. I'm just surrounded by people in my family that were like that helped others, and I really admired him. Outside of family, I had a few mentors. My youth pastor when I was a kid was a guy named Mike Potosik, who was the guy that I met my wife through. He was big on helping people. He was big on relationships. He felt like the best way to help people was to develop strong relationships with them, because you can't make somebody do anything, right? You got to, going back to the
True.
whole idea of why do people change? They have to choose to change. So what makes people choose to change? Well, if they have a relationship with someone, they get to know that person and they get introduced to a different way of thinking or life or whatever, they can slowly want to change.
Mm.
My slogan of building meaningful relationships that drive change is it's a play off of a quote he would say. He would say that life change happens in the context of relationships.
Oh wow. Okay.
I remember having a conversation with a pastor about this. He said, one of the things that they've realized in like atomic science, nuclear science, if you take an atom, a hydrogen atom, and it combines with an oxygen atom, and then that hydrogen atom splits and it goes to a different oxygen atom, the electron or whatever it took from the oxygen, whatever it did, it takes it with it. Meaning the relationship it had at an atomic level with the two atoms had at an atomic level
It stays.
carries on.
Wow.
Yeah, they've observed this. It was funny that this pastor had said that because he was making the point. This conversation we're having right now is doing something
Yeah.
bigger than we can understand.
Absolutely.
We're building a relationship. And that it's through that change occurs. That hydrogen atom is now permanently changed from its interaction with that oxygen atom. That's what they've seen in nuclear science.
Interesting.
If you look at the relationships I've had in my life, and those people were all around that idea of do something to help others,
Helping others. Yeah.
right? And they had a relationship with me that helped me. That was a driving force behind my desire to do the same thing. I want to be someone who helps people, but the best way I can do that is through developing strong relationships with them.
Wow.
Christian church ministry is very relationship driven. The entire thing is built on good relationships.
Okay.
When you go to a Sunday morning service and you got the big music and the speaking and stuff, that's not the real church.
Mm.
That's an introduction.
Okay.
The real church happens in like the small groups and the stuff that happens outside of a Sunday.
Right.
Churches that thrive and do well have a lot of these smaller groups that will, like Sunday schools almost, or like Bible studies that meet on a Tuesday night or whatever. That's where the real church takes place, through
Mm.
these relationships, book clubs and things like that. So ministry is very relationship driven. So when I went to graduate school to do the psychology thing, the clinical psych stuff, philosophical foundation of the school I went to was what they call Rogerian therapy
Okay.
or client-centered therapy. Carl Rogers was a psychologist in like 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s who won the Nobel Prize, kind of changed how psychology was done. Prior to that, it was very doctor-patient. Carl Rogers made it much more relationship.
Okay.
He was notorious actually for non-directive empathic response. I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just tell me what you did today.
Came to the studio,
Mm-hmm.
finished your videos.
Yeah, worked on the videos. Yeah.
Yeah, worked on the videos, had some snacks,
You're a little hungry.
and now we're doing this.
Yeah. Now you're just talking to another guy.
Yeah.
That's the entire therapy he would do. It's like, I'm not telling you anything. I'm just repeating everything you're saying.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how well that works today, but at the time it was this really non-directive thing. And what it really would do was a person through that reflective response would figure out on their own what they need to change.
Oh, okay.
And they also felt safe
Mm-hmm.
in talking to him. So in this class, first day of this class, they show this video called the Gloria video.
Mm-hmm.
This woman, Gloria, comes in and she does like 3 30-minute sessions with 3 prominent psychologists at that time. Carl Rogers was one of them. You can tell by watching the video that she had an immediate connection with Carl Rogers.
Okay.
Rogers was her therapist. Even though she said
Interesting.
she liked the other guy better, she kept talking to Carl Rogers.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember watching that video going, holy crap, this is literally a mixture between ministry and psychology. And this is
Yeah.
exactly the thing I want to do. Matter of fact, I'll even tell my new clinicians when they come in with a notepad and they want to focus on building a strong therapeutic alliance. Build a relationship. Don't worry about the clinical stuff. Just do a good job of connecting with your client. The other stuff will happen. Happen on its own. You're already trained in that.
Right.
Do the relationship stuff.
You did talk about, briefly mentioned the miscarriage of your wife, you getting fired, that was a rough time during your life, that rock bottom, right? Like you
Kinda.
can't go any lower, right?
Ah, you can always go lower. There's always something worse. The bottom of the barrel is death,
Okay.
honestly. You know, like the worst thing you can do is kill yourself. I can't think of anything worse. You got to imagine what a person must be going through to think to themselves that death would be better than life. Death is never better than life. Things can be bad. I've read stories about people that are in prison for murder, and they're the happiest they've ever been. What's up with that? You would look at someone who's a quadriplegic and be like, if I was in that, just take me out of my misery. But people who are quadriplegics don't necessarily feel that way. They're happy to be alive. Isn't that wild?
There it is.
Or like there was a story of a guy jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and was saved by a seal.
Wow.
Yeah. He tells the story, as soon as he jumped, he regretted it. Hits the water, breaks a bunch of bones, and a sea lion, of all things, comes and drags him to shore and saves his life.
Wow.
I think he recovered fully, and now he's a motivational speaker, right? When someone is so desperate to feel better that they think that their best solution is to die, that's painful. You got to be in a really bad spot to feel that way. And a lot of people who feel that way, who execute on it, are doing so irrationally. So yeah, when 2006 came to an end and 2007 started, I didn't have a job, and my wife was pregnant, and then we found out a month later she has a miscarriage. It was just like, I didn't know which direction to go. I didn't know what to do. You know, I just kept moving.
What kept you going?
My wife was a big part of that. So I lose my job, and you know what she did was, let's get through it together. And that made me go, okay, we could do this, right? And we struggled. We kind of got through it all together. And that was, I would say, the biggest thing was knowing that I had that person that, like, all right, if we have to sell our house and rent out a trailer down by the river, live in a van down by the river, that's cool. At least we got each other. You know, the materialistic stuff doesn't matter as much if you got the right people around you.
True.
So that's what kept me going back then. Going to school for graduate school, that was like, fall of 2007 till fall of 2010. During that 3-year period, I started a new job, full-time job. We had a baby, my oldest daughter. Those things are a lot. But she gave me the space to do the schooling. You know, hey, the kid's crying. I'll get up. You got to go to school and your internship and work tomorrow. So I'm going to let you, I'll take care
What
of her.
did you do for work?
That was when I was a youth pastor.
Oh,
I
okay.
was a youth pastor at a Methodist church in Naperville for about 6 years when I was
see.
finishing that up. But yeah, if you have the right person or people around you, they rally around you, and you you work together and you get through it.
Mm.
It was unwavering support by her. I would say that was the biggest thing.
It's the unsung heroes, I would say.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you know what you were doing at the time, or you were just like, were you methodical, strategic, or was it more like, you know what, I'll just do it and then I'll deal with?
When I came up with the plan, I was methodical and strategic. Prior to having a plan, it was like survive. December 27th, I get fired. I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. I'm going to go visit family in Texas and try to clear my head. So I went down there. I remember I asked my grandma, Melissa's pregnant and we don't know what to do. Can we come live with you? She's like, no. She doesn't
Straight up?
she doesn't remember telling me no, but she told me no. She's like, we've already raised enough kids. I'm
That's
like,
funny.
all right.
Your
Right.
mom's parents? Or
My
your
biological mom's
Okay.
parents, yeah. I come back home and then we find out she had a miscarriage, right? We go to our appointment to measure the size of the baby and they're like, baby's not growing, miscarriage. We're like, it's like the hits keep coming, right? It's funny though, you can kind of smell it when it's coming.
It's a gut feeling, isn't it?
It is. You know when like I like to describe it like this, you know when it's a beautiful day out and you know it's going to rain that night because you can just smell the rain ahead of time. You got it in your gut. This is going to be a bad storm for a little bit. Bad times are kind of like that. Good times are like that too. You can tell when it's over.
I've grown to learn, even in movies,
Yeah.
you have a build-up.
Yep.
It crescendos.
Yep.
And then there is something happens and it emotionally drags you down.
Yes.
Like it does that roller coaster.
Yes.
Every time you watch a movie,
You know the pattern. You know it's
exactly.
coming. Yeah.
So in life, like you said, all good things come to an end eventually, right?
All bad things do too, though.
Exactly. It's weird because when something good is happening in my life now, I'm like, oh crap,
Right?
here we go again.
You do. You get that feeling. You're like, yeah. And I think that's sort of the secret to happiness is recognizing that all things come to an end, good or bad. And so when you're in a good, you enjoy it. You just savor it. And then when the bad times happen, the best thing to do during those is to also enjoy it.
True.
People want it to go fast. It's a bad idea.
I have learned more from bad times than from the good.
Yeah. You like video games?
Oh yeah.
There's something fun about a challenge. If a game is too easy, it's also not fun.
Yes.
You got to have a game that's hard, but defeatable.
Yes.
You can overcome the challenge. Life is boring without challenges.
Absolutely.
So you got to enjoy the challenges.
Right.
Games aren't fun if there's no challenge. Fun fact: men play more video games than women, right? Like,
True,
right?
yeah.
Well, why is that? Well, dopamine. You want that?
Really?
Yeah, it's that we like the fight. We like the challenge.
Yeah.
The game gets too easy, we don't enjoy it as much.
You obviously had times of feeling like quitting. How did you overcome those times?
So let me give you a background story. I started the practice in 2015, and the way most mental health practices work is it's a fee split, so kind of like a commission. You pay your therapist that work for you based off of the amount of money that they brought in for the month.
Okay.
It gives you a kind of a low floor. You're never going to lose money, right? Because if a clinician brings in 10 grand, they're getting 5 grand. If they bring in 5 grand, they're getting 2,500. The problem is it's not really good at helping people because nobody likes having a paycheck that goes up and down like that. And that's how this works in this industry. There's some months where insurance pays really well, some months where they don't. It's always up and down. Like a business cycle is like that, right? We grew a lot through the pandemic, and we're going into 2022, and we're just kicking butt, right? And we'd hired all these people, and we're growing a lot. And in August of 2022, we had our best financial month ever. We brought in like $170,000 in revenue. And I'm like, this is great. We opened a location in Evanston. We hired some people. We're going to market up there because we have the money. And then September, I must have been, our revenue was like $100,000. We like lost 70 grand compared to what we made the month before. I'm like, what just happened? Trying to figure it out. And I'm like, okay, we got to figure this out. And then it was like October was the same, November. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So we looked at our system and we realized that people weren't doing their notes in a timely manner. You got to manage people. They don't do that stuff. They don't like to do that work. They like the talking part. They don't like the paperwork. So we started to realize that we had to change things and get more organized. So we did a bunch of stuff in 2023. We changed over our systems. We set up a leadership team. We have 3 people in the leadership team. They're like management. We put a compliance officer in, and we started paying people on salary. Now, what's interesting in business is when you put people on salary, your payroll costs are actually lower because people will take less pay for more consistency, right? You'll see this all the time in contracting work. If I'm a general contractor and I want to bring an electrician who could normally charge $150 an hour, but I'm going to guarantee him constant work 40 hours a week. I can get away with paying him $100 an hour because he doesn't have to worry about the ups and
Yep.
downs, you know?
Yep.
But the downside is then people, because they know they're going to get paid, they don't work as hard. I'm going to take the day off. It doesn't matter to them. So their productivity tends to go down. So 2024, that was going on, and that went on till about June. And then in June, I'm like, we lost so much money doing that we had to change everything over. And this all coincided with this other thing that happened in 2022 as well. So 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021, I started trading in the stock market, doing options trades, which are very high risk, high reward, and I did really well. 2022, I lost all of it. I was right on the number, and I missed the date by a week, like 3 or 4 times, just lost everything, like real quick. I'm like, what is going on? You could feel the storm coming, you know, that idea that you could feel when a bad time is coming. And we've been in that storm really ever since. And I remember saying to my wife in September of 2022, I'm like, man, I lost all this money. She goes, you know, if you did it once, you'll do it again. You know how to do it. Just be a little more disciplined. You'll be fine. Then going into last year of 2024, we took out this loan and we had all this stuff and we had to lay some people off and change some things last year, which was very difficult. But we did it. We managed that. And the things were kind of going good from June, July, August, and September of last year of 2024. Things were going well for us. October came, and suddenly we had another drop-off. This time it wasn't due to notes. One of the things that practitioners like myself have to deal with is just insurance just messing with you. They'll drop you out of network for this. They'll delay a payment for that. They'll come up with reasons to not pay. That's how they make their money. We're anticipating week to week a certain amount of revenue. I'm checking my numbers and it's way down. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I remember staying up late one night going, I can't afford my payroll taxes. And, you know, I couldn't afford my payroll taxes for the last 3 months of the year of 2024. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I call my uncle up. Has been a businessman for a long time, and he sold his business for a lot of money. He knows what he's doing. His name is Buddy Paul, but we call him Buddy. Here's where I'm at. I'm not sure what I need to do here. Do I need to declare bankruptcy or like what? He goes, I don't think you're in a bankruptcy spot. Let's meet with Al. Al was an accountant for my uncle and had his own accounting practice. And these guys are throwing questions at me like, what was your revenue here? Why was it that? Why'd you switch this? What's your marketing budget? Just like a Shark Tank episode.
Yeah.
And I felt pretty good because I was able to answer these questions, right? And we get to the end of it, and Buddy asks Al point blank, does he need to declare bankruptcy? Al goes, no, he doesn't. What he needs to do is needs to contact the IRS, let them know what's going on, set up a payment plan with them. They will do it. Mind you, November of 2024, I'm talking to the IRS going, hey, I'm having this problem. Can I do a payment plan with you guys on this? And they're like, no, we don't do that. Al goes, they can do a payment plan. They want your money. They don't want you to go bankrupt. Al goes, you get the IRS payment plan and you get a loan from a bank. You pay off the payment plan and you survive on the loan. You're not having a business problem. You're having a cash flow problem. He goes, you have about $500,000 that's owed to you. I go, that's money I haven't collected. He goes, no, it's money you haven't collected yet.
Right.
He goes, you're going to get that. You're going to get a portion of that money. You just need something to float you when the business cycle takes a downturn. You're not in trouble like you think you are. You're seeing more clients than ever. Your payroll numbers are in range. You're supposed to be within 60 to 70% or whatever for everything for us. He goes, you just need to have something to float you when you have issues with insurance companies. And that happens all the time. I've already talked to the SBA. He goes, don't do that. I go, don't do that? He goes, no, they're not going to give you a loan. They don't know you. He goes, it's a much more relationship-driven process than you think.
Interesting.
Isn't that wild? I would say from fall of 2022 until probably relatively recently, and I'm not out of the woods yet, but I'm closer than I've ever been, was the most challenging thing I've had as far as a business. And I kind of came to the realization, so what? If I declared bankruptcy today, what would happen? My practice would shut down. My clinicians might be out of work. They'd find other jobs. I'd still be a therapist.
Right.
I still have my license. I'd still have my contracts. What would actually change? If anything, I might even get a raise, right? I'm not paying payroll. I'm not losing my wife over it.
Yeah.
When I talked to Al the first time, when he called me before we met, very first question he asked me was, how's the marriage? I said, the marriage is great. He goes, good. When people go through this, a lot of times it ends in a divorce. I go, not going to do that for us. It was probably about December of 2024 that I got over that hump, where I realized that the worst case scenario is death. I'm not going to die.
True.
But if you bankrupt the company, you bankrupt the company. Start a new one. You know, your credit takes a hit. So what? I'm not buying a house. I have a house. You know,
Yeah.
we got good groups of friends. We got family in New York and Texas and Illinois. Like the relationships matter. The stuff doesn't.
Mm,
If I woke up tomorrow and quote unquote lost everything, I really wouldn't be losing that much because losing everything would be losing the relationships, not the stuff. The materialistic stuff didn't matter. Coming to that realization around November was like a big wake up call. Now, that doesn't mean you let it go. You want to fight for it
right.
because I have responsibility to other people. I have
Yes.
employees. I have 30 employees, and I got to take care of them.
30.
Yeah, we got 30 employees.
Wow.
We see about 1,400 to 1,500 clients a week or a month. I mean, I don't want to let those people down, but it's not about the stuff. I don't give a
Mm.
crap about the stuff.
Have you ever self-reflected and be like, 10 years ago it was just me going into this adventure.
Yep,
Now it's like 30 of us and
yep.
with, thousands of people a month that we're helping out. How does that feel?
Well, it's funny because I made more money when it was just me. Didn't have
Right.
the overhead, had a little
True.
bit less stress. My dad's asked me, he goes, "Why don't you just go do that again?" And I said, "Because I don't think it's about that. It's when it was just me, I helped 40 people a week. Now that we have a team, we help 400 to 500 people a week.
Mm.
It's a lot more people we're helping, right?
Yeah.
So we're helping 10 times the people. It's not about the money; it's about the helping of people, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that they don't talk about for mental health is most therapists aren't really good at their job, and it's not a knock on them. Just like anything else, it takes practice. Okay, it's a tough profession, believe it or not, because you might be talking to people, but it's emotional, and
Mm-hmm.
20 to 25 clients a week is considered full time for a reason, and people burn out.
Yeah.
You have to fight with insurance companies. It's a real pain in the butt administratively and organizationally. You got to keep detailed notes. You get audited. It's just a challenging profession. You go into it thinking, I'm going to be talking to kids and playing therapy and helping marriages. Yeah, you do that, but that's a lot less of a thing than you realize.
Mm.
So what ends up happening with therapists is they come into this, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and 3 years into it, they're cynical bastards. They give up. So if I can have 30 therapists that don't burn out, that grow and become better therapists, and that help a lot of people successfully, that's worth it. Our practice, one of the first things we started to do in 2022 and we started to change things over was we started to change our culture. We wanted them to like working there and
Mm-hmm.
have access to supervision and experienced therapists so they can come and say, what do I do with this case? I would rather gut this out and see where it goes and quit when I have to, than
Mm-hmm.
quit too soon.
Is this what you thought success would feel like? Is this success for you?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Here's why I say that. I'm successful in the way that we have helped a lot of clinicians help a lot of people. I wouldn't say I'm there yet in the success of managing the ins and outs of the health uh, industry business. So I like to tell people I'm a good therapist and I'm learning to be a good businessman. I keep track of my stuff weekly. I look at the number of clients we had, number of intakes, number of phone calls we had. I do all this other businessy stuff now. That part I wouldn't say I would consider myself successful at yet. I have an idea about what that looks like. An average therapist starting out in any private practice will probably make 80 grand at most. It's not enough. Success for me on the business side would be that all of my therapists are making at least 120,000 a year. That's what I want. So the helping people part of success, yeah, that's definitely hit.
Right.
My therapist making 120 grand a year, not there yet.
And it goes back to your character, to your personality of trying to help people,
Yeah.
and not only in your field, but also like your
I
coworkers.
see everyone that works at my practice as a business partner and a colleague.
Exactly.
They'll refer to me as the boss. I hate that.
You are the founder of the
I'm the
company,
boss,
which
but
is
someone has to be. But
yeah,
I don't like them seeing me as that.
right,
When I think of a boss, it's office space where the
right,
guy's like,
yeah,
have you filled out your TPS
administrative
report?
and
Yeah, right, right. I hate that. I want to be an approachable person.
mm,
I could be assertive. I can say no. I set boundaries. I want you to respect me, but I also respect you.
mm.
They might view me as boss. I don't really want them to. I want them to view me as a colleague.
If your younger self
Yeah.
were to enter the room, what kind of advice, message would you tell them?
I would tell them to go get their master's in business administration first and then get their master's in clinical psychology.
Interesting. So you can get the sense of the business.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then I would say I would have them focus on the realism. I'm an optimist at heart. Like, optimism is great. There's a lot of research that shows optimism is tied greater to success
Okay.
than pessimism. I wouldn't want to kill the optimism, that I've always had, but I'd want my younger self think more realistically about how business organization would work. I've gotten really organized in the last 2 years, and when you run a company, you have to be. And it's taken a long time to learn that. So I would tell my younger self, take organization seriously and be more realistic about what you're getting yourself into.
What's interesting to me, and I just noticed that, and you as a professional in that field, you could probably elaborate on that more. And usually when I ask this question, people go back to childhood.
Yeah,
You went to college.
yeah.
Why?
It was a roller coaster growing up for
Mm,
sure. I had death. I had an uncle with a drug addiction. I had all sorts of crazy stuff, divorces. I have a brother and sister. I'm really close with both of them. My brother got in a lot of trouble as a kid. Great guy now. He's a terrific musician, really funny guy.
mm,
He's one of the reasons I got into this, to be honest, because as a kid, I was his older brother. He looked up to me. The roller coaster and the ups and downs of childhood helped me find the way I could help people. When you become an independent person and an adult and you have to figure out life itself, and life comes at you fast and hits you really hard sometimes, that's the stuff I would want to advise my younger self on.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't change really anything other than that. I wouldn't change who I got married to. I wouldn't change when I got married. The one thing I would add is I'll give you a biggest regret if you want. My 15-year-old asked me once, she goes, "What's your biggest regret in life?"
Okay.
And my biggest regret was not having more kids. Perfect example, my grandfather, he was a doctor, did really well. He had 7 kids. If you take the combined wealth of those 7 kids, it's higher than the amount of money he made,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They took care of him in old age. He was an old, lonely guy because his wife had died 10 years before he did. And they visited him. They were there. They took shifts. The guy was never alone because his kids were there.
People go to the monetary stuff
They do.
usually when you
I
ask
would
them
have I
that.
would have bought Amazon stock
Yeah.
at $20.
Yeah, like they literally go to the pragmatic
Yep.
things they can touch and feel. Is there things that I regret? Of course, like if you think really deeply, like, yeah, I
Yeah.
wish I made that decision differently or this.
Sure.
But then in the end, you're like, if I did it that way, then I wouldn't have learned this, then I wouldn't have gone to that.
Exactly.
So you start connecting the dots
Yep.
and you end up in a spot where you're like, well, that single decision, I wouldn't be here
Yeah.
if it wasn't for that decision.
Yeah, my daughter, she's 15. She's a real deep person. She's a lot like me that way. And she asked me that question. She also asked, and she was wondering if I would stop the car accident from happening. And I said, no. And she goes, why not? And I go, well, think about life like a target. This is the line you're on, and it's a big circle. Everything above it is better than what you have now. Everything below it is worse. If you change that one event that set your life in a completely different trajectory, there's no telling if you're going to be up or down.
Yeah.
Maybe my life would have been better if my mom never died in a car accident, or maybe it would be a lot worse.
Worse.
You wouldn't exist, and I love having you. I wouldn't know my wife. I wouldn't know God. There's a lot that I mean, maybe I would have. I don't know.
Right.
But my mom, my stepmom, was the one who really guided me there.
Yeah.
I met my wife because of her. I had my
Yeah.
kids because, you see?
What would be your message to your future self?
Ooh, what would I tell my future self? I would want my future self to reflect on these times and cherish them. Slow down and enjoy it. Life is short.
Where can people find out about your business and how can they reach out?
Best thing to do is go to our website, unbrokenfamilycounseling.com. Phone number is 630-300-8928. We have several social media accounts. We have a Facebook page. We have a Twitter, a YouTube account. Yeah, we're trying to use that a little bit more.
Okay.
We haven't used it as much as we'd like.
But I would like to close the show with these remarks. Thank you for coming on the show, Nick.
Absolutely, man. This was great. I had a good time.
Pleasure was all mine.
Yeah.
If you also learned something from Nick's experiences and got inspired, share this story with somebody so you can inspire their day as well. Thank you for watching, and I will see everybody in the next episode.